Welcome to Down the Garden Path. I'm your host, Joanne Shaw, landscape designer and plant lover. I enjoy discussing down to earth tips and advice to help you seasonally manage your garden and landscape. And I also aim to bring you interesting and relevant topics to educate you all about the landscaping and horticultural industry. Hi there, it's Joanne Shaw from Down the Garden Path podcast. Thank you for listening and tuning in each week. I wanted to just jump on today and chat about watering. So it is mid-October here. I'm just east of Toronto, Ontario. I know listeners can be from anywhere, but for this example, we're going to be using Ontario and Toronto for reference. And I know, well, even all of Ontario really struggled with a drought this summer, with a lot less rain than we got last year. And when we did get it, it really wasn't really much to penetrate and really make a big difference. And so why am I talking about this in mid-October? So some examples I did want to go back and explain. So July of 2024, we had 208 millimeters of rain, but half of that came in one day in a storm. But in 2025, that just passed this summer, we had 96 millimeters of rain. That's it. And the highest record outside of that 2024 year was 2008, where we had 193 millimeters of rain. So we have not had a ton of rain. And I know most people, by the time beginning of August rolls around, or maybe even the end of July, and we've hit a drought, our lawn is dormant, our gardens are looking sad, and we just give up. And that's completely understandable. I get it. And then we do get a bit of a rainfall, and then things perk up a little bit, or maybe we are watering our lawns and that helps them green up a bit. But the thing is that when the lawns go dry up, as they look like, but really they've gone dormant. So they're really just resting and waiting. And they have the ability, grass has the ability to rebound fairly quickly once we do have a couple of rainstorms or rain showers. But I'm wanting to talk about trees right now, and the amount, we see all over Ontario and Canada what's happening with forest fires and the lack of snow that we're getting all across the country all winter, and all that moisture not going into the ground and not keeping those trees healthy. I'm not saying we're in forest fire crisis here, but in our city trees and our neighborhood trees and our home trees, our boulevard trees, but they do need water. And I hear people say, well, it's not my responsibility. Those are city trees. My taxes pay for that. But really, it benefits your trees. Really do benefit your home, your neighborhoods. It cools them. It breaks the wind and those really windy winter storms. There's a lot of benefits that come from those trees, and taking care of them, I think, is personally very important. So watering them, and I think after a summer of drought that we've received, and even though we've gotten a little bit of rain in October, we really hadn't gotten that much. So I'm really imploring you to consider your city trees, your boulevard trees, and watering them. What's the best way? Well, the best way, I know a lot of people, and even I'm guilty of that sometimes, is, watering the base of the trunk, regardless of the size of your tree. But really, you want to be watering the drip lines. And so really look up, see where the branches are, and, where the distance they come from the trunk. And that often is what we call the drip line, and where a lot of the feeder roots are. If it's a really large tree, and the drip line surpasses the road or surpasses the house. I mean, keep in mind, you just don't need to water the trunk of the tree. You can water a little bit out, and really you're watering the lawn too. So get both with one thing. So do it low, do it slow, but do it for like a good amount of time so that you are, maybe once or twice a week until the ground freezes this winter. These drought, events will have eventually catch up with trees. So I really think it's important to consider that. And we all want a tree that's in the front of our house that looks healthy and that leaves are fall and change color. I don't know if you realize a lot of the trees in neighborhoods this year didn't really change to a vibrant color like they did last year. Really made a big difference. I know I've got a couple pictures of a tree across the street from me, and it's shocking the difference from last year to this year. And really, it's water, it's drought, it's stressed, so they don't really put on that color, put on that show. And I think even driving around, yes, we can see fall color, and when we're driving in the country or down the Don Valley or something like that. But we've seen much better shows. So I really want to just discuss that and to talk about why really it is important to look after those city trees. If they're a very young tree, let's say it's, the city just put them in, or you have a young tree on your property. So it's not only the trees that the city plants, it's the trees that you may have planted on your own property. There are tree bags that you can get. I know I share mine with my neighbors. I know there's a cost involved, but it does take away it makes it a little bit easier, right? Because you can set it and forget it. You don't have to worry about leaving a hose on or something like that. So there's little holes in the bag, and once you fill it up, then they drain very slowly to water the base of the tree. So that's another option if that appeals to you. And most garden stores will stock those tree bags or gator bags. And you often see them in municipalities around your neighborhoods as well. That different cities use them. So that's one of the things I'm talking in this case specifically about deciduous trees and the trees that are going to start losing their leaves. They might lose them sooner than they normally do because of the stress that they're under. So that's something, to think about as when you're outside, doing whatever, that you consider putting either a sprinkler on low, moving, just putting a hose on a low stream and kind of moving it in that circle and the drip line of the tree. Next, I also want to talk about evergreens. Now, many of us don't have evergreens as boulevard trees, but we might have them on our property. And things like cedar hedges or other types of, even it's not a hedge, if there's just cedars, let's say at the corner of your house, that type of thing, we really they don't show us right away that they're under stress and that they need water, but you're going to see it next year and maybe even late in the season. I saw quite a few posts from people this year, mid-season, going, "What? I've been watering. Like, what's going on? Why is my every third cedar dying, or the cedar hedge is super mature and I've never had an issue before, but I've got sections dying." And often it's from what we did the year before, and making sure that evergreens, especially newly planted ones, have enough moisture in the ground. Because of their needles, they're releasing, transpiring a lot, and they are really susceptible to winter winds of drying out. So they really need to have more water at their base and in the soil around them before the ground freezes in order for them to really thrive and do well. I'm not going to get all sciencey and talk about science, all the science behind all of that, but it's common sense. So I just think even if you think you've watered enough, I think it's really important to water right up until the ground freezes. And I know I feel like so many people like October 1st or October 15th put their hoses away and start packing up for the winter. But I think it's really one, we don't get a frost, hard frost that sustains that early anymore. And I think it's really important to look at the evergreens, consider the evergreens on your property, even small ones, even yew hedges, even small ground cover evergreens that you might have. They do better if they get a good amount of water in their soil prior to winter and prior to the ground freezing. So it's not time to stop watering your garden, even though the season kind of seems like it's winding down. We haven't had very much rain yet in October, and often the other thing is when we do get rain, because it's been so dry, a good amount of that just like runs right off, right? It doesn't get absorbed. We very rarely get those long days. Remember those long rain days you used to have as a kid where it would rain all day and slow and just steady? I can remember sitting on my parents' porch, loving those days. We don't really get those anymore. It's fast, it's done, it blows through. One community gets it, even well, the next community might not even get the rainstorm. It's very inconsistent. So I'm just wanting to let people know to really consider the benefits of those of evergreens, of those trees in your yards, and how important it is to look after the water. And again, you might say it did fine, and all summer it looks great, and next spring it might look great, but you might find that the issues come up a bit later in the season because we don't even know what next season's going to bring. So I'm just thinking that it's best to be proactive, and this is especially the case if you have young trees and young evergreens and young hedges, meaning that you planted them this year or last year. It's really important to consider doing that. And I know you're spending money on water, but the labor and expensive new trees, I think water is worth it, and the benefit of having healthy trees in our yards is really important. So that's my public service announcement for you for today in October. And I know this will change from year to year and month to month, but I think it is something to think about, and I think it's something that many people overlook. Now that the grass is greener, you're not thinking that you need to water, but I want you to think about the trees, certainly the gardens as well. They may need a little bit more to get through after this long drought. If you have any ornamental trees, any ornamental evergreens, things like Japanese maples, they also really benefit from having a slow, deep watering prior to going into winter. I often see people say, the Japanese maple was fine, and then this winter, this year, half of it has died, or half of it has dried up, and there's no leaves on it, or something like that. Every situation might be different, but they do benefit from that slow, deep watering prior to winter. Even the ones that are really established, certainly, of course, for brand new ones, even ones that you may have planted this season, season of 2025, the same season of this message, also will benefit from a winter screen, like a windscreen. So I recommend all my clients stake their Japanese maple, just stake the outside so even if the leaves are touching the stakes, that's okay. And then we're going to wrap those stakes with burlap just to provide a windscreen for the winter winds. It's fine to have snow and water, like we don't need to close off the top. You just want to provide for a first year or two, depending on how much, where the Japanese maple is located. So that's another thing that you can think about. I feel like we invest a lot of time and effort into the aesthetics and choosing the right trees. or taking care of, we have to pick up the leaves of our city trees and have to take care of it. But we forget about things that they may need to get them through a winter. So I just wanted to pop on. If you agree, if you disagree, if you have if you have questions about that, then please reach out and you can comment on this podcast or reach out to me on email. I'd love to hear your opinions. But I think it's really important. Another case I think of as I'm still talking, anybody who's gotten a pool installed in the last couple of years and have trees around that pool, those are really hard conditions. It's a lot of heat. Those, we always put those pools in sunny, hot spots. Usually not a lot of soil between the pool and the patio and the garden. So those trees take a lot of abuse and get a lot of heat, and they do a lot of good. They do a lot of good when they're healthy to helping us cool our yards, giving us privacy, that type of thing. So reward them with some water. Set up oh my gosh, right out of my head. Set up a soaker hose especially in the summer, that will help you. But even if you have a soaker hose, this fall, go ahead and set it up so that you get a slow, deep watering of those trees. So that's my 2 cents when it comes to watering our trees, watering our gardens, but especially our evergreens and trees. I think it's really important, and we can't just rely on the rain right now. We really need to give Mother Nature a bit of a hand. And we all want everything to look green and lush around us. So again, if you have any questions or comments, reach out. And I thank you for joining and listening to this, to Down the Garden Path. I've talked about many of these topics in the past, so you can search for them on my website at downtoearth.ca, tree bags and different things like that. So thank you for joining me here on Down the Garden Path. Bye for now.